Now I'd like to introduce the first part of our episode, and it's about the Cord motor car. And I'd never heard of Cord when I was young. A few came here maybe, but I didn't know about them. But I first became aware of Cord when we were travelling the world, and we went into a few museums, and there was the Cord with its headlights that sort of mechanically opened up and down, and I just thought it was a very interesting and unusual car, way ahead of its time, and I've actually got one. We saw one the other day, so let's go and have a look at the Cord. Every now and then you come across something absolutely extraordinary, and this is one of those occasions. What we've got here is a 1937 812 Cord, C-O-R-D. I've seen a few of these cars in museums around the world, and I know there are a couple in New Zealand here. And a couple that we've seen had pipes, or a pipe, maybe two pipes coming out of the side of the bonnet. And those versions were supercharged versions of the Cord. And I think Cord were way ahead of their time when they designed this car, in that, for instance, the headlights. And in the front of the mudguards it's got these little slots, and behind there is the light. And in the cabin they've got two little winders, one each side, so it works on a cable. So you wind the cable in the cab and the little lights will open up and down it goes. Oh, actually, I'll see if I can actually get it to work. Shouldn't be too hard, so I'll just... And there it goes. And look at that, ready to head off. And when you finish the day, you just rewind it and it shuts it again. And there you go. Tickety-boo. This didn't really happen until about 1964 when they had the lights into the mudguard. I think Chev did it. But it's a long time, since 1964 back to 1937 when they did this. This is a front-wheel drive car, and the French actually invented front-wheel drive, and Cord have taken it on board, and the reason they did that was so they could lower it. It wasn't so high, it was a low car. The average car in the 1930s was about 2 meters tall. But because they put front-wheel drive, it meant that they can lower it a wee bit, and it also doesn't have the hump in the through the middle to the, take the drive shaft through to the diffs at the back. But a stunning design. This bonnet is actually quite long, and because of the square shape of it, people thought it looked like a bit like a coffin, so they called it the coffin nose Cord. Let's have a look at the bonnet. That is a Lycoming engine, and Mr. Cord, in his wisdom, bought the Lycoming engine company. And Lycoming engines pretty much specialise in aeroplane engines, but they did make obviously car engines as well. And in America there were lots of engine makers. Waukesha were one of them, Lycoming. It's a V8. And probably one of the first V8s to come out. I think Ford might have been already making his V8, but I'm not sure on that one. But Chev didn't really start making V8s until the 50s. But in 1937, the Lycoming people made their V8. And another version you could get with this is that they could add a supercharger to it, which meant that there was a pipe coming out of the side. But that's absolutely stunning. Great big long horn, 2 horns each side, so I bet that sounds really, really good. The inside of this is all muffled, so I guess that's interesting. And it's also got an interesting radiator cap. That's really interesting. Not a radiator cap as we know it. The flute's on the side here, all the way back. Then we come to a suicide door, and everything in there is leather. The dashboard in this car is absolutely stunning. In fact, if you got into a 1940, 1939 Diamond C truck, the deluxe model, it had a dashboard very, very similar to this. There was a gauge for everything and lots of little switches and knobs and what have you. But anyway, that's it. The gear stick comes off the side of the steering column, and it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 slots that you can, just a little lever that pops into the slots. But we'll listen to that. We'll have a look at that gear stick and the tick. And then in the back, we open up the door, and it's got a strap to hang on to, plenty of leg room, and the way that this door's designed, there's enough room there to sort of swing your bum in this little gap and you're sitting in it. A stunning colour, and the windscreen is opened a wee bit so a bit of air can flow through to the passengers as you travel along. And they did this in the 1930s and 40s and even the 50s. I think it stopped in the maybe early 60s, but you don't see this these days, where the windscreen can roll out and air can come in. So just looking at this dashboard, no power steering of course, so it's a reasonably sized wheel. And in the corner here we've got a winder, and there's a winder in that corner, and what that does, when you wind it, it opens up the headlights out the front, and when you finish with it you wind it back the other way and they close again. So we've got a temperature gauge, oil filler gauge, the speed in miles, so it goes up to 120 miles an hour. Then you've got a rev counter. What's after that is a oil pressure, the next big gauge, and the last one is a clock. And then underneath that we've got a amp meter, and as I said, there's a water temperature on this side. And then we come to these 4 little switches in the middle, which basically one's the choke, one's the gas, it says, one's lights, and the other one's an instrument lights. But this is the gear stick, and there's 4 little slots for the 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I guess over this side and up is reverse. And you've got to remember this is a front wheel drive, so all of that componentry is out the front, around the engine. So it's just, I haven't seen anything like this wheel, but it's a bit like the pre-selector they had in the old Daimler buses back in the day. You sort of put it in, and when you push the clutch it went into gear, and put it down for the next one, push the clutch, it goes into gear, and that might be how it actually worked. But anyway, if you look inside this car, leather seats, we've got an armrest that comes into the front, you've got one in the back that comes into the front, and even the headlining, if you can see it, the headlining is actually leather as well, going all the way back to that cute little double window, back window. And yeah, it's a well thought out car. The mudguards are like a lot of, like Diamond T, that was a truck and a half, and their mudguards are similar to this in that they sort of perfectly moulded sitting on the side of the truck. I love these flutes that go down the side of the engine here, right around the front and back down the other side. But the windscreen, as I was saying, they open up. There's a couple of little air vents that put a bit of air underneath, so it's sort of flowing around your seat as you travel along. But this is the boot, and previous to this it just came down. I think it may have had a wheel sitting on the back, but a lot of people complained there was no boot space, so with the 37 they've included this boot. And there's a couple of clips here, really fancy clips to unlock it, and there's a little Cord logo there, and the same as the front bumper, it's got the little 3 rows of decoration, I suppose you call it, but and even the nuts are chromed on the inside. And over here it's got a little lockable fuel tank. The old Cord, this is just absolutely stunning. There's nothing I can say, it just blows you away. When you see this car you just go, wow, this has completely got the wow factor.